This week's podcast sponsor is Stand For Clothing. Stand For Clothing is a street style and sportwear brand based here in Cork. The SF brand is more than just a clothes producer. It's a culture for people chasing their mastery and inspiring others with their passions. SF's founder truly believes in dedication and embraces ambition. Born out of the 90s hip-hop, basketball and graffiti culture where there were two tribes, kings that praised quantity. They were all about getting their tags everywhere, quickly and often. Their tag would be seen all over the city, but it'd be sloppy. On the other side, the real wild style tribe. They were more about quality, taking time to master letter structures and colour combinations as a true art, with attention to every detail. Quality over quantity. This is reflected in the founder's personality and his approach to every corner of his life up to this day. On his journey, Thomas has had to learn and develop a lot of skills to fulfill his dream. From design, textile technologies and print, to running a team and a full-scale business. Now he's also an awarded branding consultant running a creative agency. In his free time, he's a basketball player, a photographer and still writes graffiti. 20 years of passion have gone into the brand. They don't just buy t-shirts and print on them. It's all sourced and manufactured in Europe. They develop their own fabrics, graphics, designs, and they cut their own shapes and patterns, creating their own very recognizable image. I'm sure there's plenty of pieces and fabrics that'll blow your mind. Like us all, the pandemic has hit hard. It's putting a new collection on hold, but they're busy finalizing their biggest launch in the background. The guys over at SF Clothing have given Isolated Ape listeners a 30% discount from their online store. So head over to www.standfor.ie and add the discount code APE30 at the checkout. That's www.standfor.ie and add the discount code APE30 at the checkout. APE30, APE30. Peace. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Isolated Ape podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and this week's episode is number 24. Before we start talking about this week's episode, I want to just briefly discuss last week's episode. So, last week's episode was with a friend of mine, Shauna. Shauna's transgender. We had a really cool conversation around her story. And we've had loads of good feedback. So a load of people have listened to it, and a good lot of people have come back and given me some feedback, and it's all very positive. And it was nice to hear a different kind of story, you know. So the reason that I wanted to speak to Shauna was to get her story out there, and you know, it's I think it's important to have open discussions around every topic, and then the feedback that's come back of it as proved me right, I suppose. It was, you know, a lot of people have given me really positive feedback about the fact that, you know, the podcast is quite varied. And so I just wanted to say thank you to Shauna and say thank you to everyone who's given me the feedback, because it's been really, really cool. This week's guest is a friend of mine. He's a musician. His name is Fin Furey. So Fin is... Fin Furey is a very well-known musician here in Ireland and around the world. That's Fin's dad. And the Fureys, the band, is the family that Fin grew up in. So he's certainly picked up the musical gene. He's a great talker. We had a really, really good conversation. Lots of laughs. He's got some great stories. We talk about him growing up in such a musical family, traveling across Canada in a camper van with his girlfriend and his dog, his music, the ideas behind his songs, what his plans are going forward. We discuss his girlfriend's business as well, which is really cool. Really like that idea. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm going to try and keep these intros a bit shorter now. We've obviously got an advert for our sponsor, so I'm not going to take up a load of time before we get into the podcast. I'm going to try and keep these intros quite short, quite brief, because I don't want to be just going over stuff that we talk about again after. So thanks everyone for your support. Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoy episode 24 with Fin Furey. Peace.
The weed I smoke, it makes me choke, it makes me higher than a motherfucker. There's no rolling around, keeping in with the crowd, keeping it around for people to say.
And we're off. So happy days. So welcome to the Isolated Ape podcast. And this week's guest is Fin Furey. How are you doing, Fin?
How's it going? Yeah, good to hear from you, Nick.
It's been a while, man. It's been a while. The last time I think we properly spoke was in Lanzarote about 10 years ago, I'd say.
Yeah, I must have been 2000. It must have been 2010, was it? So about 10 years ago, I reckon.
Wow. And you were a young lad then. How old were you then?
Yeah, I've got the same hairstyle as you now, man.
Yeah, good man.
Politically challenged.
That's it, mate. That's it. Yeah, it's good for you though. It's
when I was actually over there, I'd actually just finished my leaving cert, so I was only.
So I'm gonna say you were a big lad, but you were a young lad. You know, I was like, geez, yeah. And then you went off and disappeared out of my view for a while, and then Corners and Coins popped up on a feed of mine, and I was like, geez, look at him now. I didn't, obviously, with your family background, I gathered music was in you, but I'd not seen you ever pick up a guitar or sing a song in the times that we were in Lanza or anything like that. So it was a nice surprise, man.
Yeah, you know what? It was funny because I dabbled around with a few chords, and so I'll circle back around to Corners and Coins in a bit. But yeah, I'd always dabbled around with the guitar and played around with a few songs, and but never really. I was always into the sports and stuff more so. And a friend of mine was walking up the road one day, and I was just chatting to him. I hadn't seen him since school, and anyway, we caught up, and he's a phenomenal drummer, and he plays drums with me now. I'm actually jamming with him later. We're recording. We'll chat about that as well. So long story short, we went up to the gaff, and we kind of caught up, and I had a guitar in the room, and he was chatting away, you know. He's like, "Oh, you playing a bit?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I sang him a song. The song was actually called "Mary Jane." It was a song I wrote about cigarettes, right? And so anyway, we had a jam, and then he was like, "Oh, like come up to the house. I've got my drums set up," and we did, and we jammed for about 4 or 5 hours. And since then, I just got the bug, you know. But a big push was a friend of mine passed away. I was 18, and he was 19. He committed suicide, and it kind of gave me a bit of a shock, you know. It was kind of life sort of thing, and do what you want out of life, and always kind of perpetually push yourself or put yourself in a position where you're just going to enjoy the next chapter sort of thing, you know. So I've kind of just let that flow, and music has really grabbed me. But with Corners and Coins, I had Massimo from Lanzarote from Charlie's. Beautiful guitar player and sax player, and so he was more than happy to jump in with me and do that. But that was the first piece of recording I'd actually ever done was that project. So it was just a test in the water, and it was a fun experience, and it was great to have Massimo involved. He's just got such a beautiful ear for it. So and
what was the feedback like on the original, kind of when that first went out? Was that, were you nervous before you put it out? I suppose you would be if it was your first bit that you're putting out for the world to see.
You know what, it's like it's a part of yourself. It's a creative sort of baby, if you want. So you don't know how the world's gonna like listen to it, and you know what I mean. But it's like ultimately it was a song I wrote about a friend of mine, and a friend of a friend of mine, and an insatiable appetite for party favors and ladies of the night, you know what I mean? So it was just a fun song, and it was just like kind of a groovy one. And
"Lady in Red Should Be Mine" was a line that stuck in my head, you know, and obviously kind of pieced together what that meant. But yeah, no, I remember, I think it popped up on Facebook or Instagram or something, and I think me and Sarah instantly kind of messaged her within a day. I was like, "Sarah, have you seen this? Seen what Finn's up to now?" I was like, obviously it's in his blood, but at the same time, like it was a lovely surprise, and class tune, man. It was a class tune. And you know what caught me the most in the video, right, was the little shamrock cufflinks that you have. I know that's a silly little thing that I pick up on, but I was like, they're class. I like them.
Thank you. Well, it was actually my girlfriend's mother who got me those for my birthday. Yeah.
There you go.
Good
taste.
My missus, they're all from Canada, so they've been great. I've been living over in Canada the last just over 4.5 years. So I'm a resident there. So I'm back in Ireland now the last 7 months.
Okay.
The last 4 years, and
is your Canadian missus? Did she make the journey with you?
She did. So I actually met her here in Ireland. I'm a strength conditioning coach and a personal trainer as well. So I work at both, and I was working in UCD in a gym here, and I met her as a part of the staff, and we hit it off on the whole lot. And we were planning on moving the next year just to Canada, and then her place got broken into twice, and the laptop she had, her thesis was on it, she was finishing, and she was just, we got robbed, and kind of bad news. So I was like, come on, we'll just finish your exams you need to do, and let's just get out, you know. So we did, and we bought a van. and converted it, stripped it all out. These guys we bought the van off were just in bits. Like the 2 registration signings were different because the guy was in prison, and it was all this bogey shit. Right? So anyway, we got the van and we like took the curtains down and the carpets out, and just spent like 2.5 days, 3 days just scrubbing the van clean, washing everything, all the fabric, cleaning it. And it was in the middle of Montreal summer, so sweating, and there was a pool nearby, so we just jumped into the pool, got back out, started cleaning the car again, and just had a few beers. And anyway, about 3-4 days later, we had it all cleaned up and hit the road. Lived in the van for 8 weeks. Traveled across Canada from Montreal down to Toronto, and just followed the Trans Canada Highway, the number 1 highway across the.
Yeah.
Yes, we made our way to BC in British Columbia, where we stayed for a year and a half before moving to Toronto for 2.5 years.
You mentioned writing a song there about Mary Jane. BC bod is some of the best bod there is. Were you still partaking and enjoying that?
I'd be partial to an old left-handed cigarette. Yeah,
man. Yeah. They needed.
In Rome, you know. So,
exactly. Yeah.
But it's funny.
And what was the legalization situation over there at the time? Did it come in while you were there, or?
Yeah, it was just kind of serendipity, pretty much. It was perfect timing because they would popping up dispensaries left, right, and center. In the place where I was, the small town of Victoria, beautiful little oceanic city. You know, it's a lovely little town, and there was more dispensaries than there were Starbucks, and it's just insane. There's one every corner. So it was good, man, you know. And at the same time, I was teaching, I was coaching as a personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach. So I'm doing gigs in the evenings and in the gym during the day with people, and all the clients, everyone I met out there were phenomenal people. And you know, it's a different thing. Like coming home here, it's like, I don't know, I find Canadians everything in moderation. You know what I mean? Where Ireland.
Everything to the max.
Irish people's view, I find, and Brits and Scots is more like, and Aussies in particular as well, is like everything in moderation, including moderation. You know what I mean? It just overlaps itself, you know? We've added a sentence on the end there, you know, that everything in moderation.
Yeah. So, and how are you finding it back home?
Loving it, yeah, absolutely loving it. So my missus, she opened a shop called The Good Neighbor, and it's a grocery store. It's a zero waste grocery store, sustainability store. So you bring your own containers. You there's a lot of them in the UK now, and essentially what you're doing is filling up your containers, weighing them before and after, and the difference in weight depending on what food. Yeah. So you can get everything from shampoos and soaps to razors, everything. You can do your full shop there. You know, it's a sustainable version of Tesco, essentially. Yeah, that's great,
man. Yeah, that's a great idea. I don't think there's anything like that down here in Cork at the moment.
It's coming though, you know. So she saw a gap in the market. Her parents and her family are very, very good on the business fronts of things. Where I come from a more artistic background, where it's like my father on the phone. You know what I mean? He calls it the Google web. You know what I mean? It's one of these. Coming from money management and stuff is not a strong suit of my family background, let's just say, you know, it's just all about, you know, creating art and doing what you love to do and pushing that way. Where I find my missus' side of the family, they're very on it with, again, just handling their own economic circumstances and business orientation and start.
That's going to be good for you, right? Because now you get the best of both worlds.
Yin and yang, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's been great seeing her fly. So.
I'm delighted, man. That's great. I'll definitely go and check that out. And is there a website or
The Good Neighbor. So thegoodneighbor.ie is her hub. So her name is Jess. But yeah, we just actually moved back. We just moved into a new place right beside the shop. So she's based in Dundrum in Dublin, and we're just down the road now, which is great. So
happy days, man. Yeah. And one thing I noticed that would be part of your family that I've seen on your social media pages is the dog.
Yeah, he's actually. I'm just flaked out here on the bed. Actually, I was just doing a bit of reading this morning, and he's right here with me.
Happy days. He's a boxer, is he?
Yeah, he's a boxer mix. Yeah. He's a rescue from Miami originally, and we got him when we were living in Toronto.
Oh wow!
And
dog's done some traveling, man.
he's a pretty international pup, all right. Yeah, and, a Miami dog who's now was Toronto, and now he lives in the Wicklow Mountains as every chance he gets. Let me tell you.
Yeah, man, he's had a pure different. Like he's exampled different terrains anyway, man. And
he definitely has. definitely.
I wonder, how's he finding the cold? I suppose you've come at the right time that it's not that cold. I suppose his first winters would be a bit tough. But then Toronto or Toronto would have winters as well, right? So he'd be
Toronto's crazy, yeah, and insane. So I mean, the difference is he's well used to it for sure. He's
happy days.
Temperate climate is perfect.
And what's his name?
Oso, OSO. Also, which is bear in Spanish. So he responded to that name. So he actually just looked up when I said his name there. He responded to that name. So we were going to change it. I had a few funny names, the pig and Sham and all this sort of stuff. But he just responded to Oso, so we call him Oso the asshole.
What was your biggest highlight in Canada, man? What was the best part of Canada for you? Obviously,
different things. Honestly, the big one that pops straight to mind is, first of all, I love to travel. So being on the road for 8 weeks in a van was just amazing. We got to see all the different landscapes from the city life to very, very wild and right into the mountains through Alberta and going through BC and the Rockies, and just some of the scenery there is just phenomenal. And taking part in all that, and just going to the glaciated valleys and doing swimming and hiking and just the hippie sense of getting in touch with it all. Truly, it is a beautiful thing, and I do I don't know. I love being in the mountains and in Wicklow here as well, and having that kind of
escape, I suppose.
Back into the realism, yeah, exactly. That for me was really nice, and the people were just phenomenal. So they're very open. It's like a Lululemon advertisement over there. Everyone's just mad into the yoga, and everyone's really active, and there's for the most part, everyone's just really, really chill and nice and welcoming. So that for me was really nice. Dabbling into playing music, I was kind of getting into.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is that where you really started, like live shows and things like that, or did you do some of that here before you went over?
No, it was predominantly over there now, in fairness. Yeah, it was like my first doing some open mics, and I was in with a great little crowd. I was writing a few songs all the time over in Canada, but I hadn't really gotten up on stage and banged them out. It was just around campfires with mates, and anyway, so I looked up this open mic spot, and I went into a local called the not the B-side, that was Toronto, sorry, it was the Fernwood Inn. And I met a few great friends there who I was very close to all for the rest of the time being in BC. And it was a great little group. It was a great little bubble of musicians that there was no ego. It was just everyone helping each other sing and play and playing each other's songs and learning songs and be it covers or people's originals. And we'd get together and just play music till 3-4 in the morning. And it was just fun. It was just a really organic, bubbly, time to it was a beautiful kind of a marriage of times, because most people have left the island now, so it was a beautiful kind of capture of time where we were all in the right place at the right time, and it was really, really, really good and really nice and very enjoyable. So from there it was doing the few gigs and giving me the confidence and just having fun and jamming with people on stage. And then when I came to Toronto, it started to get a little bit more serious, if you want, and doing some more gigs.
And how did you? I mean, obviously getting up on stage and stuff at first, it's gonna, it still takes balls. But I mean, so for anyone that doesn't know, your dad's Fin Furey, who's a very, very, very famous here in Ireland and across the world, very famous musician, part of the Furies, etc. So, I mean, you grew up around music, right? You grew up seeing your dad on stage, and did you ever get up with him as a youngster to kind of relieve that fear, or when you were getting up in Canada, was it like a brand new experience for you?
Yeah, well, a bit of both, to be honest, because I would have grown up around that. I remember, like, as a really young kid, some of the earliest memories were running around backstage and climbing the rafters of a stage in the middle of the gig. I'm above the whole audience, where the lights are and stuff, and I'm looking down on everyone. I have this view that nobody else has, and it's kind of like the puppet master sort of thing, and looking at my father and how he's interacting, and just growing up with that being a normal thing, right? And like there's pictures of me asleep in guitar cases as an infant backstage, and just stuff like that. So I would have been very much immersed in that all my life. But then it's different when the microphone's right in front of your mouth, and there's an audience looking at you. So that is a difference, and that's something that it's like kind of the 10,000 hour rule that I'm chipping away on, So it's it is that. So it's just like anything, honestly, man. It's just practice, and ultimately, if you enjoy it, you'll know if you enjoy it or not. It's like anything you do.
And if you don't enjoy it, the people listening won't enjoy it, right? Because you can tell that as well.
100%. Jesus, no, absolutely. I feel if you're gonna if you want to do it, then that's it. There's a sentence in enough. If you want to do it, then you'll do it, you know, and you'll enjoy it when you're up there. If it's something that you like to do, it makes you feel good when you're up there on stage. So just kind of tap into that. It can be scary when you're not up there for long. You're very inexperienced, and maybe you're trying to concentrate on your chords and all this sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that washes away within the first sentence or two, and you just start to what I like to do, and what my father always done, is close his eyes and listen to the sound, or imagine what you're singing about, or the emotion.
And that way, then you could be in the bedroom, or you could be in front of 1,000 people. Do you know what I mean? I suppose when the eyes are closed and you're in the moment, it takes some of that away. Yeah.
100%.
And you've done a couple of the so far sounds. Like I've come across some really cool artists through that, you know, kind of George the Poet I'm a big fan of, and I found him through that, and I think Maverick Sabre may have done a few of those as well over the time. How does it fit? Like, because obviously anyone who's a bit of a music fan will know of the, you know, so far sounds through YouTube, and then being plotted around all over the globe and doing different gigs. How did that come about? Did they ask you? Did you approach them? How does that work, I suppose?
I messaged them. I actually was talking to, so my girlfriend's brother lives in Boston with his wife, who's a Bostonian. Two lovely people, Lauren and Josh. They're great. And excuse me. So basically, it was actually Lauren that put me wide to them, and a few of their friends like to do this thing called So Far Sounds. Have you ever heard of it? And I'd watched some of their stuff on YouTube, and I was like, oh, that's very cool. But I didn't know it was actually, I thought it was just like a some sort of platform. I didn't realize that they'd done live shows and stuff as well, you know. I thought it was kind of a Maria thing where it's a hired audience, but no, it is what it is. So for people that don't know, it's very stripped back setting where people bring their own booze, sort of thing. It's typically in a non-alcoholic environment, so it wouldn't be a pub, for example. It would be like a library after hours, or it'd be like a cafe, or I done one in a WeWork before. And you know, you can get ones in distilleries, but then you'll get one on like a rooftop bar, or not a rooftop bar, but a rooftop spot in a like a patio for a shared living space and stuff like that, you know, really quirky locations. And then it is after hours, bring your own booze. And we done one in Burton in the kind of surf shop in downtown Boston there as well, which was fun. So cool setting. Everyone brings their own blankets and cushions, and everyone just sits down, and there's typically like 3-4 artists on the bill. Everyone does a 30-minute set, and it's just a really nice listening environment. Everyone's dead quiet, and it's just perfect for what artists who write original music want and need out of an audience, right? They just get that full attention, and people are really into it. You know, they've come there for the music. You know, they're very respectful. It's great. You know, it's really, really one of the funnest gigs to do. I love playing live at home gigs. Everyone's getting a bit of giddy up, you know, but it's a total different, very stripped
different
back.
vibe.
Very, very nice vibe, you know. So far sounds. I've done that. I'm going to do Toronto when I'm back. I was supposed to be doing it there in August, but everything's obviously pushed back because of the COVID. But I've done Boston, New York, Washington, and I'll be doing Toronto then when I'm heading back over to Canada to do a few gigs. You know?
And how does that kind of get set up? So obviously they need a few artists to be able to come to that venue. But I mean, like the ones that I saw were kind of London and different venues. So do you know how that works? I've got no idea. You may not know the answer.
They work in almost, they call it chapters. So it's kind of like bike gangs, right? So just applying the Sons of Anarchy principles to so far Anarchy. So essentially what they do is you just
jump me before I host a session.
So it's basically, you reach out to the guys, you show them a few of your platforms, social media platforms, I guess, and sample music from Spotify or whatever. And if you're kind of the right fit, they'll bring you on. They'll reach out to you then, and essentially that's it. Outside of that, I messaged the guys for the Boston. Adam Greenberg was the first guy who reached out to me, lovely lad, and I've done actually 3 for the Boston guys, and then from there they sent me contacts through to New York, which I done one, and Washington, and a few others.
Is there a chapter here in Ireland?
Yeah, I think so. It's a smaller one. I don't think it's connected to the Boston ones and stuff. I know the Toronto ones are different as well, and I think there's slightly different management things under the one
Right, yeah.
umbrella, if you want. So I don't know too much about the background of it in terms of that, but yeah, I'm definitely going to get something going with the Dublin guys, and I think there's one in there's definitely one in London. I think there's one in Edinburgh too, and there's a Barcelona one that I was in contact with as well. So it's all been kind of put on hold at the moment, but yeah, it's fun, you know, just tapping into the different styles there, you know. I know when I was doing it was the second Boston one, it was in a cafe, but there was a really cool instrumental band there. There was a guy on a bongo and another guy on a cajon, so they were just doing percussive stuff. So I brought them on with me then, and they were like,
yeah,
kind of uncomfortable. What are we doing? I'm like, hey, you'll feel it. You're grand.
Yeah,
So it's a fun kind of jam set, and I love a good jam set. You know, I don't want it too formal, and it's kind of stop the creativity of it. You know, so yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So far, it's been great.
How are you finding COVID? Obviously, you came back, and I suppose you were wanting to dive right in and build your own name for yourself here in Ireland as a musician, you know. And you've come back, and COVID kicked in. Is it been a big kick in the stones? How are you finding it?
Man, to be honest, yeah. Well, I mean, we were set to do a ton of recording, and I was supposed to have like a single release now at the end of this week. And it was going to be the first of a good few. We've got a string of them coming up, and new releases and the whole lot. So that was a bit of a brought to a grinding halt. However, we've kind of had a bit of time to sit back, look at the songs, kind of evolve them a little bit, add some new parts that I wouldn't have, and I used the time wisely in terms of kind of approach to release for further songs. And yeah, it was more like, okay, how am I going to use this time, because we are stopped. So but back recording there since last week, and going really well. So I've got a few.
You were saying you were in the studio. You've got some new music that you're recording. Are you constantly writing? How does that process work for you? Do you write, go in, record that, when that's finished I'll start kind of on a new project, or are you always just scribbling lyrics down and ideas down? How does that work for you?
Both, yeah. I'm always scribbling, always writing, constantly have 3 or 4 songs in the go. I have a few so I have a backlog of a few, you know, so I'm basically selecting kind of, I don't know, the top 10 songs that I feel are strong and I really enjoy to sing and are kind of relative to what's going on right now. I like to kind of sing about what my inspiration comes from, anything from a simple conversation with friends or something that maybe I'm watching or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm in the middle of organizing, getting into the studio and recording those songs. So I've one at the moment that I'm working on called Fire and Blood, and it came initially from a conversation I had with 2 mates of mine over a company called Cambridge Analytica. I was watching a documentary called The Great Hack, and it just blew my mind about all the online information.
Data gatherers and stuff, are they? Cambridge Analytica?
Exactly. Data mining, yeah. And the song itself grew into kind of looking at how attached we all are to our social media platforms in order to kind of to distract us from everyday life, you know?
Yeah.
Insatiable fulfillment need of distraction. So the song kind of taps into a bit of that, and just how it's led to digital superpowers extracting this information and selling it to political campaigns and the current governments that are running for a new term, and so I call it binary warfare. So yeah, it's running online media propaganda to further their own agenda by
obviously with the Black Lives Matter thing that's going on at the moment, and all the other kind of there's so many posts on social media that you can't help but flick through and see something, and I think it depends on what you react to what more you get fed, you know. I said to me missus there, I was like, Sarah, I'm gonna have to come off Facebook again. Like, I was off all social media. I kept Instagram because I didn't mind looking at the odd photo, but I was quite selective in who I was following and what they were putting out, you know, because I'm a big hip hop head, huge hip hop fan, and I followed a few rappers, and there was this one UK rapper, Gets, and there was on his Twitter feed, I'm talking about 2 years ago now, on his Twitter feed, there was this mom and son and dad walking down the road. baby, or the son in between the parents holding hands, and this woman comes out of nowhere and tries to stab the kid in the head, and I was like, I just don't need to see this shit.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't need to absorb that
do you know, like,
8 a.m. in the
it
morning.
was an eye opener. So I cut off everything off, and then I started the podcast, and I was like, right, I'm gonna have to get back on social media to try and pump this and push it and get some traction going with it, you know. So I've been back on social media again because of that. But recently, with what's going on and the amount of negative stuff that you're just seeing, I think it's time for a hiatus again, you know, in them terms. But yeah, what you were saying there, like, it's very much kind of, you don't know. There was one article or one video that was put up, and I think it was by another musician, black guy, who was telling us about, he had I don't know if you've seen it, he had the marker pens representing different groups. Did you see that all? No?
No, I didn't actually know.
We had kind of four permanent markers that were black, right? And he goes, these are different fractions of Black Lives Matter movement all over the place doing certain things. And then he had behind them, in front of them, he had four different media outlets that are just filming all of this information, right? But then in the background, he had Antifa as one color, and a couple of kind of people that own the media that are linked to politicians, kind of, you know, and he had their names. They've evaded me at the moment. And he was just explaining how these guys push these guys to film that, for it to spin back around again, so they're all getting what they want out of it, you know. And it was just when you mentioned the song there, and the meaning behind it, that was the first thing that came into my head, was that little video.
It's great. It's so true, and I know everyone. It is a topic of conversation. Oh, is my phone listening to me right now? But it's just that algorithm. It's in live time. You know, if you stop over something for a few seconds, you know, it picks up on that. But what kind of took me as like grabbed me for the inspiration of the song is that it's like the filtering of timeline. So like my girlfriend said to me the other day, we were talking about this, and she was saying, you know, because her Instagram world, her Facebook world is all kind of minimal waste, sustainability people, and they're all very like vegan and all, you know, single-use plastics and all that, you know. So that world on her phone is that. But then when she looked up at Lidl, or she looking up at like the queues of McDonald's, or people are for 5 hours and just this mad stuff, and she's like, I guess it is a tiny bubble, but that's what you think is everywhere, you know. So if you have, like, you see the separatists, the left and right stuff going on in Ireland as well as all over, you know, the UK, the Brexit, and of course the States, what's happening is people are living through those filtered timelines, and they think like this is what the majority of people are thinking is what, be it left or right, you know, and it just gets more and more separative. And I find
it's just about separating people, right? Do you know what I mean? I'm going to feed you with what you want to be anti them, and I'm going to feed you what you want to be anti them. And it just seems that it's a lot easier to deal with us when we're all in little boxes and segregated. Yeah,
so
unfortunately.
I found there was a part of that the Great Hack documentary, very good. So there's like 2 or 3 different stories, but the main one is one of this guy who's trying to basically get his personal information back from Facebook, I think it is, and he's just battling this lawsuit. And I won't tell you, you should watch it anyway. But basically, there's this thing that they're talking about, and this is the Cambridge Analytica guys, the data miners, the people who collect all that information and sell it to government parties who are looking for what they call persuadables. So people who are kind of on the fence, you know, and you know they're kind of pro this and kind of anti this, and they've shared a bit, and they've kind of like, so they call those the persuadables. And what they do is essentially pump propaganda into, you know, for example, the one that sticks into my head would be like the crooked Hillary sort of thing, you know, and swaying that around, you know, whatever way you want to look at it. So there's the lyrics just basically of one of the Fire and Blood that I'm just kind of finishing writing now the last week. But there's a verse 2, and it's like, are we brainwashed by binary machines of war, persuadables desired, lost souls to click and scroll, and filtered timeline lives, learn only what they care to share. Propaganda kings and queens, your eyes on your screen is all they need. You know, so it's ultimately like
yeah.
You know? So it's got that kind of drive to it. So just imagine a nice kick drum going through that. So we'll be recording that now next week and stuff. So there's a few projects like that I'm really excited on working on, and as I said, from Corners and Coins being the first kind of projects that I've ever done, there was a ton learned, you know, and now I'm really a little bit more in control of what it is that I'm doing and understanding
I'm a big fan of Love Fever Blues is a song that you've done that I'm a big fan of.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I would often sit with a glass of Merlot and a left-handed cigarette, mate, and play that, and I'm in my element. I'm happy out.
Oh,
It's
man,
it's a nice chill one. Just going back to Corners and Coins there. So you had a director for the video of that was a guy that most people will have heard of, right?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
How did that come about, man? Tell the story of that.
I was again, as I said, I was working in Toronto, and I was on my way home one day, and I seen this this jovial character bouncing down towards me. Now, mind you, it's the middle of winter, right? And it's like January 16th, and we're walking down Toronto, and these huge skyscrapers that are creating these massive wind tunnels, and it's freezing. So I buckled down against the snow, kind of marching my way through the snow up towards where I was getting what's called the streetcar, the kind of city trams. And I see this as this jovial character coming bouncing down towards me, and he had these disco ball trousers on, you know. I was like, who is this character, you know? And then a big smiley head in him, and you know, you can spot an Irish person a mile away, like. Paddy, you know, and then as he got closer, I'm like, oh fuck. So I was like, you're Robert Sheen. I was like, no, I said to him, you're Irish, aren't you? He's like, I am. And then, you know, I was like, oh, you're Robert Sheen, aren't you? He's like, I am. So I got chatting to him anyway, and so we met up for a few drinks, me and a few of my mates and a few of his mates, and I would just hit it off, man. It was just, we had a fucking great old night, and we ended up going to about 3 or 4 different bars and going to a session afterwards, and it was a mad old night. So then we just kind of just became friends and started hanging out more and more, and got to the point where we're seeing a lot of each other and chatting about different projects. And I love it. Robbie he's very extremely creative guy, and I find myself, I'm always kind of coming up with ideas for like screenplays or coming up with poems and coming up with songs and so on and so forth. And he's doing that too. He's always coming up with kind of ideas for screenplays, and so we're just constantly bouncing ideas off each other, and we're two extroverts that fuel each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just hit it off, and I was talking to him about like a song that I wanted to do, and he was like, would you do a video, you know? And I was showing him a few of the so far sounds and stuff like that, and it's kind of what I wanted to do. And so he was like, geez, yeah, well, I'll give you a hand. I'd love to kind of dabble around with a bit of that directing, just for a fun project, you know? It's not acting is his main thing, but he just wanted to dabble in. And it was the night before a gig that I done in the location of that Corners and Coins video on YouTube. It was a place called B-Side Lounge, and again, same thing as in BC. I found a great hub of phenomenal musicians there in B-Side Lounge. Kind of, it was an open mic thing, and a few phenomenal singers. So what we done there was kind of frequented more and more, and then I hosted a few gigs there, and places plaqued, and it was a great night. But before the gig, we essentially shot the video. But I'll tell you a funny story about it. So what we done was basically, you know, all the different camera angles and lenses, and shot the video. Okay, I want to get close up to the face, close up with the hands, or close up with the shamrock cufflinks as you spot.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And stuff like that, you know. So we done it for about 2 hours, and I sang the song about 80 times, you know. And then I had a gig later, so I had to watch the voice. So basically, what we done is we recorded the audio from the gig that night, and we used that in the video. So okay. So we basically took the live set and put that through the channel.
So you took the audio live set, but all the kind of visuals were done pre that set as such, pre that
gig, exactly. So then, what was funny though, we had a great fucking night, and at the end of the set, we brought loads of people up on stage, a few friends of mine, and we all done the old triangle, and Robbie was a part of that. There's a few funny pictures on Facebook of everyone up on stage belting, and everyone's just sweaty and, you know, hammering like. And so we done that, and at the end of the night, we ended up going having a big. There was a good few of the Netflix crowd there, because there was a lot. Robbie was doing the Umbrella Academy, so
yeah.
Halfway through the set, I like kind of open my eyes. I see this big, solid bouncer looking guy, a lovely suit on. I didn't take much notice of it. I'm like, nice suit, you know, kind of back singing. And then I opened my eyes again, and it was Mary J was there, Blige, and she was just fucking, hey, because I was over at her place a few weeks prior. Robbie brought me over for a few drinks and had a good laugh. So I told her about the gig, not actually thinking she was going to come up. So house is packed and Mary J is there. I'm like, this is great.
Wow, you know? Class, man. Happy days.
It was a crazy night then that night had, and she was great, honestly. And Robbie and everyone's like, you know, Irish people are like, you know, get very excited over the little things, and so everyone was making a big fuss on Mary. Oh, Mary needs a drink, Mary. You know, it was great. So it was a great night, though. But it was such a good night. The Robbie actually lost the fucking the card for the footage. So we had to
shit.
I fucking need you, right? So we had to reshoot the whole thing, and the beauty of it all is we done it. We reshot everything, and that was great. You know, the whole thing went well. But then, lastly, about 2 days after the reshoot, he found the initial video. I was in his passport. He put it in somewhere where he'd never lose it, but he'd never fucking find it. So anyway, we reshot it twice. So we had loads of footage, but we ended up just using actually the footage from the pre-gig. So, but yeah, it was a funny one. So he's been brilliant, you know, lovely fella, and it was great getting to know him and a lot of the Umbrella crowd.
What was Mary J Blige like? Because she comes across as a pretty kind of chill character and quite. Chill. Yeah, like a bit reserved as well. It's how you kind of picture her, but you know, that's only from what you see on the TV. You know, I've never met the woman, so I don't want to be.
We went to her place. She was renting a place during the filming in Toronto, and first time meeting her, she was saying welcome me into the house, and we were up drinking till about 4 o'clock in her place. Ended up staying there. Woke up in the morning, this big chamber room, and I'm looking around. Where the fuck am I? Mary J's gaff, you know. So, what was even funnier? No, she was unreal. So welcoming, very nice. We good old laugh, and just humble. Honestly, man, just really humble. You know, there's no two ways about it. She's just really, really sound person. Her sister is her kind of her bodyguard and best friend and consigliere, and she was there. So her and my missus hit it off well, and yeah, it was just welcoming. But it was funny when I woke up that morning, there was kind of little drops of red wine, you know, and it was like leading from my bedroom downstairs and into the kitchen. So it was obviously me hammered, stumbling that night off the bed with a glass of red wine. I woke up beside the bed. I was like, oh Jesus, screaming at
me. I'll move that red wine out into someone else's bedroom fairly likely. Yeah,
exactly. So that was great. Kind of cleaned up that a little bit, and then we all I just made a load of breakfast for everyone, and we sat out on the patio and had some food and chilled out for the day.
The proper Irishman. I'll get a fry on there, man. That'll solve everything.
That was it, yeah. It was great, man. It was great. So it was phenomenal just bouncing around. But yeah, we were with them on Canada Day, and just as I said, they're just very just so welcoming, such sound people, and like all of the Umbrella Academy crew, you know, Ellen Page, all of them. Tom Hopper, just really, really nice cast, sound people to be around, no ego, just fun, you know, creative people who just inspire you, you know, when you're chatting with people and your brain's just working a million miles an hour in a good way. And I just find like submerging yourself in that creativity is very healthy for me. I find just people who are driven, you know. I find leaders attract leaders, as they say, and I found there was just a big gang of them there, which was great. So fortunate, serendipity for me walking up that street at that time to see that jovial disco ball walking towards me, you know. So that was great.
Madness.
Yeah,
in terms of new music going forward and stuff, obviously you got stuff that you're releasing. I read somewhere that there was a gig that was supposed to be happening towards the end of July in Dublin, but I'm assuming that's what's the stuff. What have you, any gigs coming soon, or is everything just been put on hold?
Yeah, nothing's confirmed now. There's been a bit of wiggle room happening now. I think there's a few weeks. Things have been jumped up a few weeks, so pubs are going to start to open. Yeah. So it's coming. I realistically, I'm going to hang into the end of July. I have a few dates in mind for gigs, and I've contacted 3 bars in Dublin. So we'll get it going probably by kind of October, November. I just want to make sure everyone's very comfortable going out.
That's it. You know, if people need to be able to go out, but then also if you're doing a gig, you don't want it where everyone, like, you got a table of 2 and then 2 meters away you got a table of 3, and you know, it needs to have that kind of, you know, that's it. But then again, maybe those sofa sound, you know, the sofa idea, something that's a bit more open. Did you see?
Yeah.
Did you see Dave Chappelle did the 8-minute 46 thing for Netflix? Did you see that? And he was out in an open space, and it was the first gig that's ever been done since COVID had kicked in, you know, and they all seemed to enjoy it. Now, it wasn't much of a comedy gig. He was very much talking about George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, and it was
and someone like that is such a political figure in that demographic, and fair play to him, because that's honestly whatever platform you have to kind of push that the civil rights evolution that it is, you know. It's like, it's so cool that the history is, it's just that's it, it's a progression. So I think there was a bit of kind of stigma, like this is supposed to be a comedy show, but there was a few funny one-liners in there. He was
halfway through, he said it. He goes, "This isn't funny at all, but I've got some pussy jokes if you want."
yeah, exactly, right. But the whole thing is like, it was almost a conversation with Dave Chappelle. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, I thought it was.
But again, that was the kind of thought that I had in my head there when you're saying about a gig. Like, you really enjoyed those sofa kind of gigs. I'm not saying you have to get onto sofa to set it up, but I mean, is there a space that you could do a rooftop, a park, or something that you could do some sort of gig in that would, because you're allowed up to 500 people out in the open, but less indoors. So it might be something to consider and think of doing something outdoors.
Comfortable with that too, so I think that's definitely the way to go.
And if you can bring your own booze, we'll just go bushing in the field, man. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, big bag of cans. No, 100%. I think that's definitely a good shout, and I think probably by the end of August, that sort of thing is gonna be
more prevalent, I think. Yeah. And what about music with your pops, with your dad? Is that something that you've done, thought of, want to do, or are you just happy to do it yourself?
100%. Like, I think like he does his thing, I do my thing as well, because two thoughts to it basically is one is kind of like a different style of music, but it's very fun, like playing with my dad, having my dad on. It's just fun to have. Like to be jamming with them. But in terms of kind of, I don't know, I'm almost in second in mind as well. I haven't really thought, but we'll chat about it anyway. It was kind of changing my name, where I'd gigged over in Canada and stuff, and just done some little gigs as kind of Fin Furey, because that's who I am. That's my name, right? So coming back here, it's kind of like, even though a lot of people don't make the connection, it's kind of I know something that I've been playing around with, changing the name just for myself.
Okay. Any ideas? Anything you want to?
Yeah, I have a few, but I'm going to keep them under wraps for now, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool.
Few bad ones and a couple of worse ones, but like...
Yeah, and I suppose I do get it. I mean, obviously, we both know Rory and the island, Rory Gallagher. Obviously, you can't go by the name of Rory Gallagher because there's also already quite a well-known Rory Gallagher around, or not around. So he went with Rory in the island, and but I suppose the Fin and the Fin bar is, even though it's only a slight change, it does differentiate you, so
100%. It's not like I'm doing techno, you know what I mean? So that's the difference.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that exactly. So exactly with Rory.
Sounds like a superhero name, but
yeah, well, that's the funny thing in Canada and the States, when like you go in, when I had hair, to go in to get a haircut, or I'd book a restaurant or whatever and be like, get the name, say, Fin Furey, and they're like, that's your real name. That's cool, man. It's like a super villain or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
It is a good name, but it's like, it's kind of taken over here already. I give my dad stick. I'm like, geez, you didn't think this one through, did you? But I always like as well. So like anything, I'm like, that'd be good. That'd be good artist name. Wouldn't that be a good band name? Like a Peugeot 307 would drive by. I'm like, Peugeot 307. That's a good name.
Yeah. Oh, madness. Yeah. So what do we? Where do we find you? We've come up to nearly 45 minutes, mate. This has flown, which is great. So I suppose, kind of rounding up and finishing up, where do we find you? Where's the best place to find you? Where will we hear this new music dropping?
Talking about Fire and Blood, but it's on the social platforms, the song "The Fire and Blood." But what I'd say is any socials, the Instagram, the Facebooks, it's all under Fin Furey. So Instagram, Facebook, Spotify's, Tidal, Apple Music, all that good stuff.
Fin
Furey, yeah, for now anyway. And
for now, yeah.
And ultimately that's the game. So just working on a ton of recording at the moment that I'm pumped to do, and release some videos then over the next probably starting the end of July. I'll have a good bit of material there, and we'll start.
You got ideas for music videos that you're doing? Have you, once you've got a song down, does that kind of imagery play through your head when you're playing it that you'd like to do a video for, or is that something you get a bit of help with?
Definitely. No, I have funny ideas for a few different ones. There's one kind of session idea that I have, which would be fun. There's an animated video that I'm dying to do for a song I'm doing at the moment. It's almost finished, called Throne of Bones, and it's a bit. I always had this kind of gnawing inspiration that I hadn't really tapped into, and it's basically looking at who's the Grim Reaper, and what was his background and what got him there, and like what was his goals in life and what makes him happy, and does he want kind of thing. But it had this allegorical kind of sense of selling your soul to the devil if it were for for money over happiness kind of thing. So it taps into that, but there's an animation video idea I have in mind, so that'll be released on right around Halloween week. So
good thinking. I like that. Yeah.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So I do say so myself, of course. But
yeah,
musical history. But it's one that I'm actually very excited about doing, and the song itself was a lot of fun to record. So.
And the names of things that you come up with, like the names of songs and the names of albums and that, and like you're saying, you're thinking potentially of coming up with a new name for yourself. Where do you? Is it literally just anywhere you see, anywhere you look, you might pick something up? Like you were mentioning there, obviously, I think you weren't being serious about the Peugeot, but is that where the inspiration comes from? And do you sit down and think a long time about the track titles and stuff?
Some just come straight to you. It's like. Songwriting, again, that 10,000 hour, the more you do anything, the more comfortable it's going to be, and the more you do anything, you turn on a tap and you first hook up the plumbing and it'll be kind of brown, horrible water and spurts of clear, and then the more you let that tap run, the more clear water will start to run from it. So I find you find inspiration the most unlikely places, man. The magic of music for me, essentially, begins with real emotion and the power of imagination. My dad always says, again, part of closing your eyes is feel the story and let that sing. So it's essentially a marriage of experience and fascination to share an idea or a memory that a listener can feel and relate to, resonates. And kind of excites me on the topic. So I find, it can come from anywhere. Some of the songs, I've been chopping and changing, coming up with new parts and section them in and out, and some other songs just will write start to finish in a week, and they'll just pour straight out of you. And sometimes when you're trying to write a song about certain topic, it ends up taking a big left turn and going another way, and trying to steer it towards what you want rather than kind of letting it flow towards whatever direction it tends to go. An example could be, I don't know, you're writing about, simple as I said, you could be writing about subject A and it ends up, you end up maybe coming up with one line and it's kind of out of context of what you're trying to write, but you're like, I don't know, I really like this energy while I'm going with this song, and just kind of tap into that, where that goes, So I've often written a song and kind of, it's never really been finished, even though it's finished, it never felt right. So I never really sang it. And then one day I'd maybe have a few drinks and come home in a night and kind of just head hanging over the guitar, strumming away in a few chords. And I might come out with a melody and a line totally different to any melody or line that I've had previously with the song. So I'm like, I kind of like that. I have everything always recorded on my phone. I have like 300 and whatever little voice recordings, and some of them are like 30 seconds long of just doodling and jumping in with a little melody, and I'll tap back to that, and I'll be like, September, a new hook or something. I tap in, listen, I'm like, I kind of like that, so I tap back into it and kind of
play along with it then and refeel it. Yeah, I can imagine if I was writing a song about anything, it'll always turn to weed. That's always the way. I love my children, but I'm going to write about weed. I love my wife, but I'm going to talk about weed. I have a
bit of inspirational incentive there as well. But it is exactly that. It's kind of like it flows to, like, I've got one at the moment that poured out of me. It was after a friend of mine's birthday. It was a mad party, and we ended up going back to one of his gaffs and staying up on the session for a day and a half. And it was just so funny, But it was the first time being on a mad kind of, if you want, like Irish I would have grown up with for years, right? And anyway, the song is called Clairvoyant K-hole, so you can only imagine.
Okay,
So it's but then other ones is like the likes of that song Fire and Blood about the binary warfare and like about history, and it's.
Well, you need that bit of variation as well, right? When people are listening to an album, you need the bit of fun that goes with the bit of emotion, right? That emotional roller coaster happening, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's music ultimately for the majority of people. Just want to tap their feet and shake off some stress and feel good and kind of move, especially when you're going into a gig. You don't want to be preached that and told how shit your life is and everyone else's life is. It's all slow.
I'm a hip hop fan, mate. That's all they fucking do. They tell you how great they are and how shit you are, mate, and then they shag your wife. Do you know? But I love that shit, mate. Yeah.
But it is that, you know, every slow song has its place, and it can be a beautiful thing. Contemplating music, I think I call it. You're driving home, you're listening to, like, if you want to use hip hop for an example, like there's a song, The Message, that Nas does, such a beautiful song, you know, and but then you have much more like Chief Rocker and stuff like that in the comparison.
Yeah,
So you have those
there's a time and a place for everything, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're in the club, you don't want to be listening to Akala telling you about, you know, how you know, white privilege and here, and I'm not saying he's wrong, he's dead right. There's certain times that I do want to hear that, and I do want to be taught, and I do want to learn. But in the middle of a nightclub is not that place, you know. So yeah, it's something for everyone at certain times. Last question I'm going to ask you, Finn, just because the Clairvoyant K-hole reminded me of Lanzarote, I suppose. What would you, if you could sum up your time in Lanzarote, what would the song title be called?
That's a good one.
I think mine would be "What's Your Name, Where You're From, What You Want."
Yeah, Nicky Beach, 2 for 1. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, mate, sometimes fun times.
Yeah. That was, honestly, man, Lanzarote was a lot of fun. Yeah, a lot of fun in the sun. And there you go, sun kissed summer bliss. That's what I'd call it.
Yeah, man. There you go.
And
Cool.
Yes, sir. A lot of fun times. More to be had.
Plenty more.
Over there again next summer. They're chatting to a bar. I'll remain nameless just for now because nothing confirmed. But looking forward to kind of doing a few nights over there in a row. And
yes, man. Yeah. We were planning to go. We had a holiday booked for the beginning of June to go to Spain, to go to Mallorca for a water park with the 3 boys. Obviously, we've got 3 young kids, you know, 3 lads. So we've got to keep them entertained as well. So we were going to be going to a hotel with a water park on it. And obviously that got cancelled. So then we were looking at Lanzarote for Christmas time. But yeah, it's just the prices are going up through the roof, and you just don't even know, really. Like, we've already had one kind of Aer Lingus flight cancelled where we had to get vouchers to be able to use them again, and they're forever coming through, you know. So you're kind of looking, do I want to book something again and then have to go through this whole rigmarole again, you know? So who knows?
I had a few myself. It was supposed to be in Israel, supposed to be in the UK doing it, and then Canada as well. So everything got cancelled. So exactly, kind of waiting. There's rumors of this second wave going on as well. So you just never know what's going to happen, really, don't you?
Second wave is going to be the mental health side of things, mate. Try and get everyone back to normal. Try and get everyone back into the routine. I can't imagine my kids going back to school and it being so different. It's going to be an easy process for anyone, you know. Me going back to the office is going to be a very different process and yeah, I think the second wave is going to be the mental health side of things that we just need to keep an eye on everyone.
100%.
My own, you know, but yeah, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, Jays, I hope not. Anyway, actually, speaking of which, this is a funny one. My dad got nominated. He was an honorary doctor for Jez, what was the actual title for again now? Jez, I should have backed that up before I started the sentence. What was it for? It was essentially it was music and cultural studies or sciences. Jez, I can't remember now. But I'll message you and I'll let you know because I can't remember. You say Dr.
Finbar now, is he?
The story is the Furies have a doctor in the family, you know what I mean?
Happy days, man. Who'd have thought that, eh? Listen, Finn, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. I wish you all the best. And any gigs that are happening around Ireland, we'll definitely be making a trip off and we'll have a catch up on a pint and a left-handed cigarette outside, mate. And I look forward to it.
100%. Well, me love to family. And listen, great chatting to you. And chat soon, man.
Yeah, man. And once you're as big as your dad, don't forget me and come back, bro.
That's it. I'll be joining you. I'll be joining you in that room and we'll have a jam and a cigarette.
Exactly. Listen, man, take care of yourself and thanks very much for today. Take care, bud.
Cheers, Nick. Have a good one, man. Bye.
This is my dad's podcast. He's an isolated ape. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for your support.